Sri Sharma ji, my friend Mr. Puneet, Mr. Sachin Sharma, distinguished members, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all of you. Perfect. So we are ready for today. Having said that, why revised model GST law is important for all of us together, we all are aware of. But before I start technical deliberation, it's important for all of us together, and we all are asking one important question, whether GST for sure is coming in, first point. Second point, if it is coming in, then what is the date? Whether 1st April, 1st July, or any other date. I would like to highlight in terms of journey, and will tell you whether GST is going to be virtually reality for all of us together or not. You must be knowing 122 Constitution Amendment Bill was placed in the Lok Sabha on 19th of December 2014, which was passed on 6th May 2015 by Lok Sabha. Then Rajya Sabha has referred this 122 Constitution Amendment Bill to Select Panel on 12th May 2015. Select Panel submitted the report on 22nd July 2015. Since then it was pending, but that 122 Constitution Amendment Bill was passed on 3rd August 2016 by Rajya Sabha, on 8th August 2016 by Lok Sabha, and then on 8th of September 2016, Honorable President has given assent to this 122 Constitution Amendment Bill, and now it become 101 Constitution Amendment Act 2016. This 101 Constitution Amendment Act has got 20 sections. Section 12, important section, got notified on 10th of September, but effective from 12th of September, GST Council got formed. All other sections, section 1 to 20, except section 12, got notified on 16 September 2016. So this date is very important. And you must have seen the ruling party and the opposition parties are fighting. GST Council is not making headway. Next meeting is scheduled on 16th of January 2017. Let's see what is emerging out of it. But importantly, now opposition are united together and they are not able to create the consensus for GST. So virtually this question comes to each one of mind, whether GST will come or it will not come. And Honorable Finance Minister is saying it's a constitutional compulsion that GST has to come before 16 September 2017. And why it is being stated? Because Section 19 specifically talks about 1 year time limit from the date of notification. And this date of notification of Section 1 to 20, except Section 12, 16 September 2016, meaning thereby, if at all GST has to come, it has to come on or before 16 September 2017. First. Now the question comes to our mind, whether it is coming on 1st April, of course, looks like not. Whether it can come on 1st June, 1st July, 1st September, to me looks like 1st July would be the effective date. Why I am saying so? Because you must have seen number of states following the quarterly VAT return. So quarter ends April to June. We start with the July quarter. So it would be smooth transition if we are starting with a quarter end. And 1st July looks like to me can be the effective date for implementation of GST in the country, the first part. But next negative part, let's assume hypothetically that consensus is not emerging. whether GST can be postponed, and why Honorable Finance Minister is saying constitutional compulsion. Why state has to come on board and support for GST, meaning it's very simple. If you look at this 101 Constitution Amendment Act, entry 84, whereby central excise duty is being levied. Now, if it is not coming before 16 September 2017, then central excise duty would be levied only on 2 items. 5 specified petroleum products and tobacco. Otherwise, central excise duty cannot be levied on any other products. From state perspective, today VAT is levied, but post facto 16 September 2017, state can levy VAT only on 2 specified items. 5 specified petroleum product and alcoholic liquor for human consumption. So their power is going to be curtailed, and that's what looks like constitutional compulsion. The center and state has to come on board and create consensus for GST implementation in the country. Just imagine for 1% that ruling party and opposition party does not agree for the same. What happened? In that case, Section 20 of 101 Constitution Amendment Act is very, very important. And Section 20 is giving power to the Honorable President to come out with any order whereby the old provision can be again replicated. But this order can be passed within a period of 3 years from the date of assent given by the Honorable President, which was 8 September 2016. So, extreme situation, if this consensus is not emerged, but this is important for the ruling party. Our Honorable Prime Minister and Finance Minister is propagating for GST, and GST is being sold out as a hot cake in the national and international market. So, looks like to me, 99% we can see GST in the country, but 1% hypothetically, then President has power and he can pass any order to replicate the existing provision. And this order needs to be placed in both the houses of parliament in terms of Section 20, subsection 2 of this 101 Constitution Amendment Act 2016. So this is what the journey all about. Now, moving forward, overview of model GST law. You must be knowing the first model GST law came on public domain on 14 June 2016. And then as a trade industry, PSG Chamber of Commerce, we have submitted our representation. On the representation and the input and feedback, government has revised the model GST law, and this revised model GST law came on public domain on 26th of November 2016. Now, what is the difference between first model GST law and revised model GST law? The first model GST law, CGST and SGST Act, was having 162 sections and 25 chapters. But in revised model GST law, we got 197 sections and 27 chapters. In the first model GST law, we were having 4 schedules and 1 GST valuation rule. But in revised model GST law, we got 5 schedules and there's no GST valuation rules. In IGST Act, initially it was 33 sections and 11 chapters, but now it is only 24 sections and 11 chapters. So virtually we have to look at revised model GST law. But if you make comparison between first model GST law and revised model GST law, you will find 30% provision are being changed while comparing with the first model GST law. Meaning thereby, whatever input, suggestion, feedback given by trade, industry and commerce, including PSG Chamber of Commerce, the law got amended. And even I could see this revised model GST law, which is there on public domain, since 26 November 2016, you will find 10 to 15% change will also come in final model GST law. Now, having said that, now how we are heading for and what is the overview? There are two topics given to me. The first, the meaning of supply and scope of supply, and then overview of this model GST law. Now, if you look at model GST law, it starts with the first of all important section, levy. How GST can be levied in terms of Article 366, 12A, GST means goods and services tax applicable on supply of goods or services or both, except alcoholic liquor for human consumption. So alcoholic liquor for human consumption is out. There are two other products, petroleum, 5 specified products, would be out of GST and would be taxable from a date to be notified once GST Council will decide. And power sector, entry 53, list 2 item is not amended. So indications coming out that power sector will also be out of GST net. But look at this chargeability coming from Article 366, 12A, GST means any taxes on supply of goods or services or both. So what is both remain? Do we want to carry forward double taxation? Let's wait. Let me move further. So levy, chargeable section is section 8 in revised model GST law. And chargeable section says there shall be levied a tax in the name of CGST and SGST on intrastate supply of goods or services. IGST on interstate supply of goods or services. Meaning thereby, for intrastate, within state, what is applicable? CGST and SGST. And what is for interstate supply of goods or services? IGST. On a value determined under section 15 of model GST law, at a rate notified by central and state government on recommendation of GST Council, but not exceeding 14%, meaning thereby, in all probability, GST rate would be 28%. But you must be knowing that GST Council has decided 4-tier rate: 5%, 12%, 18%, 28%, and 28% with cess. And cess is going to be levied for demerit goods, luxury cars, aerated beverages, tobacco, and pan masala. But whatever chargeable section says, but not exceeding 14%. So CGST and SGST totaling together, it will not exceed 28%. And to be collected in such manner as may be prescribed. So this is a big line. What is this collected in such manner as may be prescribed? Meaning thereby, if you are service tax assessee, you know that we follow point of taxation. Similar kind of provision we will find under time of supply for goods, time of supply for services. Even though GST applicable on supply of goods or services, but we have to determine what is POT for discharging the GST liability. Just today we are having time of supply, complete session. So I will not go into intricacies of time of supply for goods and services, but very, very important. So just idea which I want to float, that advance receipt today for rendering services after 3 months, service tax applicable, right, on advance money received. But advance receipt for supply of goods after 3 months, with excise duty levied, not levied, VAT levied, not levied, GST going to be levied, answer is levied. And where from it is coming? Time of supply for goods under section 12. Earliest of the following: date of issuance of invoice, last date when invoice need to be raised under section 28, or date of receipt of money, whichever is. So advance money, GST applicable, no problem. But corresponding credit is being denied in the hands of recipient until you receive the goods or services. So GST applicable on advance money, but credit is available only at the time of receipt of goods or services. So this is what the contrary, but we will see. Then section 8, subsection 2 talks about CGST or SGST or IGST to be paid by taxable person. Subsection 3 of section 8 says there would be specified goods or services as notified by central government or state government for reverse charge. And what is reverse charge? Recipient has to discharge the GST liability. And this will be applicable only for specified goods and services. Section 8, subsection 4, very important. That any e-commerce operator providing specified services, in that case, for that specified services, they would be considered as supplier of service, like Uber and Ola, aggregator model. In aggregator model, service provider and service recipient are different, and aggregator is sitting in between. In this case, e-commerce operator who is providing specified services, they would be considered as a deemed supplier of service, and they have to take registration and discharge the GST liability. This is pertaining to levy section. And who could be taxable person who has to pay CGST, SGST for intrastate, IGST for interstate? Taxable person means a person who is registered either under Central Excise Act or under Finance Act service tax provision or under VAT provision, or who is required to take registration in terms of Schedule 5 of revised model GST law. And who is supposed to take registration? Whose aggregate turnover is more than 20 lakh rupees. In case of northeastern state, including hilly state, 10 lakh rupees. This is what the provision given. If aggregate turnover crosses 20 lakh rupees, GST registration and chargeability is a must. Now, under section 10, taxable person is being defined, and they have said only 2 persons are excluded. They need not require to take registration. The first one, any person who is supplying non-taxable goods or services or exempted goods or services exclusively, they need not require to take registration. Or agriculturist. And compulsory registration is being prescribed irrespective of any threshold amount, even ₹1 turnover, we have to take registration. For interstate supply of goods or services, reverse charge, ISD, TDS deductor, TCS, online information database access retrieval service, e-commerce operator, casual dealer, non-resident foreign supplier, any supplier supplying goods through an e-commerce operator, compulsory registration required. Now just take one example, and I got very interesting practical case. I'm a chartered accountant. My turnover is only 15 lakh rupees. Only 15 lakh rupees, 1-5. Or let's say my turnover is 9 lakh rupees. As per service tax provision, I'm not supposed to take registration, right? Because up to 10 lakh, registration not required, whether I'm providing intrastate or interstate. And I got many clients in Gurgaon. So I'm giving services to Gurgaon-based client. Even though my turnover is 9 lakh rupees, GST registration would be must. So even this 10 lakh criteria which is applicable for service tax SSC may not be available post GST because compulsory registration if I'm engaged interstate. This is the first component which I want to highlight. Now, within this provision, there is one composition dealer registration. And what is composition dealer? You must be knowing this composition dealer registration is being taken in a case you do not want to follow complete provision. And you must have seen under the VAT provision, right? Now under GST, This composition dealer registration can be taken by a manufacturer or trader if aggregate turnover is less than 50 lakh rupees in preceding financial year. And manufacturer has to pay GST not less than 2.5%, meaning thereby not less than 5%, CGST and SGST. Trader not less than 1%, meaning thereby not less than 2%. If you take composition dealer registration, then you can't take credit. And you can't charge taxes. You can't raise taxable invoices. And who can't take composition dealer registration? If you are supplier of service. If you are supplying non-taxable goods. If you are doing interstate outward supply of goods. Or you are supplying goods through an e-commerce operator. Or you are manufacturing specified goods, you can't take composition dealer registration. So these are the provisions pertaining to composition dealer. I have discussed the levy component, taken you to the taxable person, discussed the composition, connected you with the time of supply, but there are certain other parameters which is again important for all of us. And what could be those parameters? Place of supply. When a transaction is intrastate or interstate, this need to be determined, right? Section 3 of IGST Act says interstate. If you want to determine a transaction as an interstate supply of goods or services, thumb rule would be location of supplier and place of supply would be in different state. Any supply of goods or services by SEZ or to SEZ would be interstate, even though they are existing in same state. Import and export of goods and services will always be considered interstate trade or commerce, and IGST going to be applicable. And what could be intrastate supply of goods or services? When location of supplier and place of supply is in same state. And why this provision is important? Let's say, if you treat any transaction as an intrastate, then you must have charged CGST and SGST, am I right? But after 3 years, it turned out to be an interstate transaction. Department comes and they say, no, Mr. Jain, this is interstate, IGST should have been charged. Then the first question comes to each one's mind, what happened? I've charged CGST and SGST, collected and deposited. But now I have to pay IGST. Can I adjust IGST towards tax deposited in the name of CGST and SGST? Answer is no. We have to deposit IGST and go for CGST and SGST, and we all know how refund comes. And place of supply, specific provision given. Place of supply for goods under Section 7. Place of supply for goods for import and export under Section 8. Place of supply for services under Section 9 for domestic transaction. Place of supply for services for import and export under Section 10. Now, specific provisions are being given. What is the place of supply? Just to highlight, I will take up only two important ones. Place of supply for goods. So they have given different parameters. If goods involves movement of goods, then the end destination of goods would be the place of supply. If does not involve movement of goods, then place of delivery. If goods are being transferred by transfer of document while transportation of goods, then principal place of business of that intermediary person. In case of installation and commissioning, place of installation and commissioning. So these are the specific provision provided for place of supply for goods. What are the specific provision for place of supply for services? They have given specific rule for immovable property, event, transportation of goods, transportation of passengers, banking and financial services, telecommunication services, insurance services, advertisement services. If specific rules is not applicable, default rule. In case of B2B, location of recipient. In case of B2C, location of supplier. So we have to identify these provisions to determine whether my transaction is an intrastate or interstate. place of supply is over here, but let's touch base. Valuation. On what value we have to pay GST liability? You must be knowing GST valuation rules was provided when first model GST law came on public domain, but that is being withdrawn while giving revised model GST law. Only section 15 referring what is the valuation, and valuation means GST applicable on transaction value paid or payable when supplier and recipient are not related and price is the sole consideration. And this transaction value will include all other taxes, duties, and cess other than CGST, SGST, and IGST. So just think of petroleum sector. Just think of alcoholic liquor for human consumption. If you pay any other taxes, import of goods, BCD, which is not going to subsume, so such duties and taxes will be the part of transaction value. To that extent, cascading will continue post-GST. What other item need to be includable? If any expenses paid by recipient, which is otherwise to be paid by a supplier for supply of goods. Third, any late fees or penalty paid on delayed payment, any subsidy given to the supplier of goods or services, except subsidy given by central government or state government, or any incidental or other expenses. But what is excludable, important one, discount. Discount given at the time or before supply of goods or services. But post-supply discount, again subjective issue. For post-supply discount, the provisions are, we should be knowing before or at the time of supply of goods. And it should be linked with the invoices. If we are giving post-supply discount to be excluded from the transaction value for the chargeability of GST. This is what valuation provision. Last, one or two components as a basic overview, GST input tax credit. If you look at manufacturer or service provider today, we are struggling with the sandwich credit rules. And why GST is being desired by trade, industry, and commerce? We want to have seamless flow of credit. Am I right? That is what the objective all about. But if you look at seamless flow of credit, whether it is being envisaged in GST law, first of all, laudable one, at least the definition of input, input services, and capital goods. This is being now said, used or intended to be used in the course of furtherance of business. At least business concept has been brought back. Credit would be available. But in terms of whether seamless flow of credit available, no way. They have given the negative list that we can't avail the GST input tax credit. Specified items are being provided. One of the example, I'm getting this office constructed, which is going to be used in the course of furtherance of business. And contractor charging GST, I can't take credit. The same provision which is existing in sandwich credit rules is being taken up in this negative list. Like manufacturer availing number of input services. Only 3 items as prescribed today, that rent a cab, life or health insurance, unless it is statutorily required, then credit available, otherwise credit not available. And I'm just thinking for employee-related, whatever input services be procured or provide to the employee concerned, it is always in the course of furtherance of. Why negative list? And the time limit to avail credit, we got time limit of 1 year, right? Under existing sandwich credit rules, which was 6 months from 1st September 2014, increased to 1 year from 1st March 2015. But time limit, if you look at in GST provision, we have to avail credit at the earliest of the following. By due date of September return, which is 20th October, or due date of annual return, 31st December, whichever is. So February 2018 credit, we have to avail at the earliest by 20th October or 31st December, otherwise credit is going to be lapsed. Then it got provision of ITC matching and mismatching. So there is no concept of that you have to feed in your inward supply or purchase. Outward supply, which is cell supply, my cell supply would be auto-populated for you as a recipient as inward supply. You can add, modify, and delete. You can add, modify, and delete. But subjectivity remains. If I'm mentioning 10,000 rupees as against 20,000 GST charged, you can add, modify, and delete, but that is subject to deficiency memo. It needs to be corrected within specified time period. Otherwise, it would be liability in the hands of recipient. First part. And second important aspect, if you pay GST to Bimal Jain being supplier, and supplier does not deposit, corresponding credit is being denied in the hands of recipient. And there is big hue and cry. And now we have to test this GST and network, whereby outward supply getting automized, populated as inward supply for all of you. Whether this is workable, because today we have seen in migration, we are extending date. And still we are not reaching to a level of estimate given by the government authority. So I'm only saying GST input tax credit, what we are looking for seamless flow of credit. But whether this is being ensured in GST provision, as per revised model GST law, no. But still, let's see. We are filing our representation and coming to the last component, which would be important in terms of overview. As a trade industry and commerce, it is important migration today. We are moving from pre-GST to post-GST. There are many transactions need to be taken care of. And chapter 27 is very, very important for all of us. And chapter 27 contains section 165 to section 197. My SUNVAT would be CGST, my VAT credit would be SGST. But what happens if I'm not registered? What happens I'm pure trader but not excise registered? What happens I'm a works contractor? I'm not availing credit on inputs. Either I'm following construction under notification number 26/2012 or works contract rule 2A. There are many provisions. I'm centralized registered unit, but tomorrow I would be decentralized. How credit need to be distributed? Many provision contained in transitional provision for our immediate attention so that we can have smooth sailing post GST and we are not losing out any money or cost component. Having said that, come to the next topic, which is supply, and supply is important one for chargeability of GST. So what is supply? Because this is going to be very important one. Before I discuss supply, I would like to highlight the term manufacture. Term manufacture is being defined under section 2, subsection F, Central Excise Act 1944. 1944. But you must be knowing that even today, this term is not settled. Department continue to dispute. If we assume this activity undertaken is a manufacture, department will say it is not manufacture. If you say it is not manufacture, department will say term manufacture. We do not want a similar term supply, but the way the term supply is being defined in model GST law is an eye-opener. And to me, looks like it will create a litigation. How the supply is being defined? Supply is being defined in this manner. Supply includes, without defining what is the meaning of supply. So term supply is subjective for individual interpretation. Includes all forms of supply of goods or services. Such a wider definition. First of all, the term supply is subjective, and second, inclusive definition, all forms of supply of goods and services. So thereafter, we don't require any other provision. But still, the term supply is further discussed and described, such as sell, transfer, barter, exchange, licensing, leasing, renting, disposal of goods or services, made or agreed to be made for a consideration by a person in the course or furtherance of business. A lighter example, when we say mithai includes jalebi, barfi and laddu, ye to bata do mithai ka matlab kya hai. Similar, I am looking what is the meaning of supply. which is kept open. Are we really heading for similarly for the term manufacturer we are following today? First part. Subsequent part of definition says, but before I move to subsequent part, these 8 terms, sell, transfer, barter, exchange, licensing, leasing, renting, disposal, they're saying such as, but none of the term is being defined in model GST law. Am I clear? So these are very subjective. You're including such as, but not defining in model GST law. Second, importation of services. For a consideration. Earlier it was whether or not for consideration. Now they say for a consideration. Whether or not in the course of furtherance of business. Not an issue. Go to the third item. Supply even without consideration, GST applicable. Even without consideration. And Schedule 1 contained the 4 items. And I would like to do 2 case studies. And what are those 4 items? Permanent transfer or disposal of goods where you have taken the input tax credit. Second is supply of goods or services between related persons or distinct entities when made in the course of furtherance of business. So stock transfer made between one unit to another unit with a GST applicable. Applicable. At what value? Transaction value, right? That is what it is being stated. But we all are saying, why on transaction value? If I'm paying GST on transaction value, of course credit is available, but the problem is, maybe I would be selling my stock after a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, am I right? So what happened to that extent? My money get blocked, right? Working capital get choked. And we have to get the money from the bank. It is supply for goods. Can you think of supply, stock transfer for services? We know stock transfer for goods, stock transfer for services. I'm a head office, I'm managing director. I got 29 branches in 29 states. I got CFO, I got corporate team working at Delhi. Whether we do any stock transfer, we don't do that. But our costing is being considered while pricing any kind of output services, right? GST is ultimately being paid. But even stock transfer for service sector, GST applicable, how it is going to be valued, calculated? These are the big questions coming to each one's mind. This is Schedule 1. Schedule 2 talks about any matter which is either as a supply of goods or supply of services. Today you must be knowing that we are struggling with double taxation, right? And double taxation applicable on construction, IPR, IT software, right to use of movable goods, works contract and AC restaurant. At least Schedule 2 provides certainty and clarity that what is supply of goods, what is supply of services. So they have given 6 items. Transfer of title in goods. Second, land and building. Third, any process undertaken on any other's goods. Transfer of business asset and supply of service. All declare service item, which is now most of the transactions are double taxation applicable. At least Schedule 2 says these are supply of service. So works contract going to be supply of, AC restaurant going to be supply of. Very good. But I will take another case study little later. Just go along with me. Then this definition continues that there are certain activities and transactions which should be treated neither as a supply of goods nor supply of services in terms of Schedule 3. Employee giving services to the employer. It is neither supply of goods nor supply of, no GST applicable, right? Just POCH. I said in Schedule 1 even without consideration. Supply of goods or services, right? Between related person. An employee and employer are related person. When made in the course of furtherance of business. Now please tell me Schedule 3 says employee giving services to the employer, no GST applicable, but what happened? Employer giving supply of goods or services even without consideration, whether GST applicable. So again, we are back to the same era. Even if I'm giving anything to my employee concern, it is in lieu of employment contract. I don't give other way around. It is not trading. I'm not doing any business terms with my employee concern. But ultimately, supply of goods or services between related person, even though without consideration, when made in the course of furtherance of business, GST applicable. Then Schedule 3 further says, what is not supply of goods or supply of services, any fees taken by tribunal or court, any services by MLA and MP, they continue to enjoy. No GST applicable. Any services given by foreign diplomatic mission in India. And last one, they said, any service by way of funeral, burial, crematorium, no GST applicable. So when we are going out of this material word, no GST applicable. Lovely one. And this definition further continues that any activities or transaction undertaken by central government, state government, or local authority in terms of Schedule 4 is neither a supply of goods nor supply of services. And if you go down the list, I am just highlighting two items. Education and healthcare services. If it is given by central government, state government, local authority, no GST. Because it is neither a supply of goods nor supply of. But any healthcare services provided by private bodies, Fortis, Max, Apollo, with a GST applicable. Today, GST not applicable, service tax not applicable, right? Service tax not applicable, but post facto looks like to me, healthcare services given by central government, state government, or local authority, that will not be supply of goods or services. But private bodies, looks like GST. First of all, healthcare is a basic need of Aam Aadmi. We can't afford it. And then you are going to levy GST and think of for service taxability, no rate is being decided as yet. They have decided 4-tier rate only for goods taxability. 5%, 12%, 18%, and 28%. For service taxability, what we are hearing, that service may be taxable at the rate of 18%. So are you going to levy 18% for the healthcare services or education given by private bodies? This is eye-opener, big eye-opener for all of us, and we have to really understand. And then going down further, the definition says central government and state government, by way of notification on recommendation of GST Council, can determine any transaction, either as supply of goods or supply of services, neither as a supply of goods nor supply of services. And the last one, composite and mixed supply. Very interesting. And I would like to do case study for these two transactions. What is composite supply? What is mixed supply? Now, composite supply, they say when two or more supplies are clubbed together. Mixed supply also same meaning, right? But we must be knowing naturally bundle and not naturally bundle. Are you recalling? Naturally bundle and not naturally bundle under section 66F, subsection 3 of Finance Act 1994. What is naturally bundle? Naturally clubbed together. Perfect, all right, not an issue. If it is naturally bundled, then the principal supply would be the determining factor for chargeability of GST. If it is not naturally bundled, then the transaction which attracts higher rate, that would be applicable. So to understand, let's take an example and do the case study. Please tell me AC along with the installation. And I got 2-3 learned speakers on dais as well. AC, you supply AC along with installation. Please tell me what is this transaction. Whether it is a works contract, supply of goods along with installation, right? So you are mixing up two transactions together. Supply of goods AC and erection, commissioning, installation. So two or more supplies are clubbed together, right? Please tell me it is a composite supply or not? Composite supply, right? Right? AC going to be under 28% slab. And erection, commissioning, installation being service 18% applicable. So please tell me the whole combo, 40,000 rupees AC and 2,000 rupees erection, commissioning, installation. I'm only saying 40,000 and 2,000. There may be a probability that 40 crore rupees machine value and 2 crore rupees is the installation value. It may be multiplied in numbers of zeros also. As many zeros as you want. Now what happens to the composite supply, right? What rate applicable, 28% or 18%? Why 28%? The principal supply is supply of goods. Are we going back to the era of dominant intention test? Are you recalling Coney elevator judgment? What was the Coney elevator judgment? Initially, 3-member bench decided supply of lift along with installation is a supply contract, supply of goods contract. Am I right? Which was overruled by 5-member bench, and they stated it's a works contract. And what is the definition of works contract? Definition of works contract is a contract wherein we got transfer of property in goods used in execution of works contract and includes construction, erection, commissioning, installation, completion, fitting out, repair, maintenance, renovation, alteration of any movable or immovable property, right? So what happened? Are we really going back? Now with this composite supply and mixed supply, we have to determine what is the intention. Dominant intention test is again back. Again out. You go to AC restaurant. AC restaurant would be supply of service. Am I right? GST rate as applicable on service contract. But AC restaurant has got material and services both together. But why I picked up the works contract, this very interesting one. Now the works contract definition is being provided in model GST law, and what definition says, they are removing movable property, movable goods. It is only related to immovable property. So what is the definition given in model GST law for works contract? Any contract when we got transfer of property in goods. Use in execution of works contract. Transfer of property in goods. What is the relevance of this term in GST? GST applicable on supply. What is the relevance of transfer of property in goods? But still there. And then they say, continue to say, and includes construction, erection, commissioning, installation, completion, fitting out, repair, maintenance, renovation, alteration of immovable property. So movable property is out. So just give me an example. You're going for car servicing, repairing of your car. Whether this is a works contract. Now these are all subjective issue will start. Then going down further, Article 366(29)(a). Article 366(29)(a) deemed sale of goods. It is not being deleted or omitted. Even the Article 366(12)(a) says GST means any taxes applicable on supply of goods or services or both. And you are continuing with the Article 366(29)(a). And works contract definition now have no relevance of movable property. So I'm just thinking where we are heading for. Now you have seen the recent judgment of Apex Court, Larsen and Toubro, BSNL, Coney Elevator. We are just coming out from dominant intention test, and what is the thumb rule provided? Works contract where we got material and services both together, right? But now again, in case of composite supply and mixed supply, we have to identify what is the dominant intention test, whether it is naturally bundled or not naturally bundled. If it is not naturally bundled, then the particular transaction which is chargeable at higher rate going to be applicable. So supply definition is created in such a way that it is going to create a number of litigation. Going down, GST applicable on supply of goods and services. So what is the definition of goods and services? So if you go to the Constitution, goods means, goods includes, that is the way it is being defined, goods includes all material commodities and articles. But if you look at the goods definition in model GST law, goods means every kind of movable property other than money and securities, but includes actionable claim. Growing crops, grass, or things attached to or forming part of land agreed to be severed before supply or under contract of supply. So first of all, you must be knowing first model GST law. It looks like security is going to be chargeable to GST. But now it's excluded from the definition of goods. So at least security is not chargeable to GST. But what about actionable claim? What about actionable claim? No service tax applicable today, but tomorrow it is goods and GST applicable. So what is the meaning of service now? Very important. Service means anything other than, so easy definition. What is simple definition provided? Anything other than goods is service. But is it meaning thereby such a wide definition? And this is what the wide definition given. So software we are always talking about tangible and intangible. When it is tangible, when loaded on a CD and DVD. And when intangible, when it is provided through electronic mode. And when it is IT information service, then it is supply of service in terms of Schedule 2. But if it is loaded on a DVD and CD, it is a packaged goods. We get Microsoft, Windows 7, available off the shelf. Lot many software available which is loaded on a CD and DVD. So software will again continue to have debate, whether packaged or customized, tangible or intangible. Now let me sum up all the point together and create synopsis for all of us together. I started the journey of GST and how we are heading for, and whether GST going to be reality for all of us or not. That's I've communicated. Looks like to me 1st July 2017 can be the effective date. Subsequently, the next question comes, in case consensus is not emerging, where we are heading for. Then we started discussing overview. While discussing overview, I want to give some highlight and important synopsis. As we all are reading GST provision, and GST provision has got different dimension to read at. If you really want to learn GST, how you have to start with? You have to start with the thumb rule that how GST going to be applicable, what is the levy section talks about. And just to highlight, if you look at earlier taxable chargeable section, in first model GST law, there was no reference of as value determined under section 15. But revised model GST law talks about as determined under section 15. Just think of construction sector, works contract. Today you follow abatement notification 26/2012. 30% taxable with a condition land value need to be included and no credit on input, right? Meaning thereby credit available on input service and capital goods, right? They have not given any valuation rule as on date. So this construction real estate sector is looking for what happened, whether they will get any deduction for the land value. Coming to the healthcare. As I said, healthcare services given by central government, state government or local authority, no GST applicable. Today, no service tax applicable even to a private bodies. But tomorrow looks like if it is given by private bodies, GST applicable. If GST applicable, what would be the rate? Standard rate or lower rate? So this is what the preparation required. You may be from those sector, education sector or healthcare sector. You have to start your preparation now. And you have to file your representation now before it is too late. And this is very important. Whether this is applicable 18% or 12%. So construction and real estate sector has to really work upon. And today, for transition for their sector is very important. Today, they might not be availing credit of excise duty paid on cement and iron steel because they are discharging 30% in terms of notification 26/2012 or works contract. But what happened? The stock lying on appointed date, which may be 1st July. They have discharged the excise duty component. Can they take credit? So transitional provision going to be important for all of you together. Coming to the term supply, which was my next deliberation. The term supply is so subjective. First, it is not defined what is supply, and subsequently it is inclusive definition, right? So are we really heading for litigation or creating simplicity and ease of business? What is the thumb rule of GST? GST should provide ease of business, simplicity, am I right? But the way the term supply is being defined, let me tell you, it will be so subjective and subject to individual interpretation. And then providing definition, composite supply and mixed supply, we are back to the same era, dominant intention taste, naturally bundle, and who is going to decide naturally bundle and not naturally bundle? So I give an AC with installation example, which is continue to be a works contract. Are you going to levy like works contract, 18% applicable, supply of service contract? Or you are going to say, no, you are mixing up two supplies, AC and installation. It's a mixed supply and highest rate AC 28% applicable, even on the component which is otherwise chargeable to 18%. So what happened? Tax planning. What we should do? We are just moving towards GST. If you are entering into a contract, you have to really segregate your contract as a supply of goods or supply of, so that you will have certainty and clarity that you end up paying the GST rate as applicable on goods taxability and GST rate as applicable on. If you mix both the things together, you would be having problem. And what happens if your contract is inclusive of all taxes? Inclusive of all taxes. And you're not bringing the clauses in your existing contract. Please take care of those transition provisions would be very, very important. And we have to really keep it in our mind that these provisions are going to play an important role and stepping stone for our preparation for GST. So thank you very much. Thank you.